Perfect. Welcome back to the shop, and as I'm sure you can tell by the title of this video, it's going to be a little bit different. This is something that I had a quick brainstorm about a couple months ago and thought, you know, this should be simple enough, won't cost too terribly much, and then I realized, oh, what I'm thinking is totally the wrong size. Here it is. Okay, here it is. So this is a roughly 1/20th, maybe closer to 1/21st scale torpedo, maybe 20th. It's kind of in between. So here's the deal. I tried to size it for the PBY, right? And turned out that I didn't have enough space inside the torpedo, so I just lengthened it. So it's scale-ish. It's clearly a torpedo anyway. So that's the deal. All right, so started with a thing off of Thingiverse, pretty straightforward, and the tail design was really easy. So I cannibalized a model that I had that was really tiny and I never flew, because when it's a nice day, I'm usually flying my models that are big and I like to see, and this little model I never fly. Sorry. Yeah, it was fun when I built it, and I just don't fly it anymore. So yeah, cannibalized the motor, the speed controller, and the battery, and the receiver, because the receiver was tiny. Yeah, so it's all airplane stuff, but it's a 3D printed bomb. So I printed out of ABS because I print out of ABS. It's just what holds up to sunlight. PLA just doesn't. And then on top of that, water permeability. So this isn't entirely water permeable or waterproof. Getting my words mixed up today, but that's okay. Not designed to be watertight, because that's impossible. Even submarines have bilge systems. They're gonna leak. So I've done the best I can, and that's really all I can hope for. This is expendable. If I lose it, I don't care. So with that said, let's turn you around and go over a few things just in terms of what it's designed to do. So this is really straightforward. You've got a basic long tube with a nose and fins and a propeller, okay? So the fins, they do something. Not much. But what we do have is a brushless motor in here with a speed controller and a receiver, coupled with a wire that is able to house this battery. So all of that stuff is literally stuffed in here. Okay, so actually the motor sits right about here, because there's a bit of an extension that goes inside this tube. It's rather tight fitting, but I did glue this using this silicone waterproof sealant. Everything has been treated with Corrosion X, except for the battery, because why? Then moving on from there, I've got a little O-ring. This is from my O-ring kit from Harbor Freight. And it provides some kind of seal here. Didn't grease anything, just you know, tighten it down till it's sort of tight, and it mostly keeps the water out, and that's all we're really going for. And then once you plug the battery in, you stuff it in here, and this is designed to run on the surface. The idea being that there is an air cavity in here that's mostly tight, right? Mostly tight, especially in the top end, not necessarily in the aft end, right? And so when it rides in the water, you've got weight back here. Most of the weight is back here. And so it kind of drags its butt and pushes itself up and runs along the surface of the water. That is how it's designed to run. Okay, if you want to make sure that it's going to do that, even if you get water intrusion, you can put a slug of foam in the nose. There's enough room up there. You can put a slug of foam up there, and that way it'll at least always float. You know, it'll always float, so you can retrieve it. All right, so with that out of the way, let me show you how I rigged up the radio. All right, so with the radio on and the battery connected and installed, you can see how it's fairly neutrally balanced, but more toward the rear. Definitely more toward the rear, which is a good thing. So you've got the buoyancy and the mass sort of neutrally, but favoring the aft end, okay? With the motor, I've got, so the threads on the motor were M4, and I had some threaded rod that was also M4. Tried to solder up a coupler, didn't work, didn't want anything permanent, so I just used shrink tube and Gorilla Glue. Little Gorilla Glue inside the shrink tube, do the shrink tube, let it cure, it's fine. So that way it's flexible and it's still going to spin, and it's not too terribly permanent. From there, we've got two nuts, right? A backing nut for the propeller and then one to tighten it. And then I did drill and tap the plastic, so this actually does screw on just to try to help keep it in place. And from there, yeah, we have a radio inside, and there's only one channel. Okay, guys, it's pretty straightforward. This does nothing. This does nothing. Okay, it's all the throttle cut switch. Okay, that's it. And what I've also done in the radio is set up a curve, and I can edit that curve to determine the speed that I want. All right, so I'm only going to 50% throttle in this situation. So I figured that just playing around with this, it goes down to about 30% before it'll actually start up. And that it's pretty slow. Here's a clip of that. But then once you get to like 100, it's like ridiculous, and it over torques the whole torpedo. Here's a clip that's what it looks like. What I'm saying is that you can tune the radio for the torpedo through testing and such. And that's what I plan on doing when I go to CEF with this. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's make this depowered, and I'll show you my little torpedo drop mechanism on the PBY. It's pretty simple. All right, I've got the PBY flipped over and powered up. Yes, I have props on. I have my throttle cut on. I'm not planning to play with that stick at all. In fact, it's on the opposite side of the radio. So we have a servo. I traced it in position and just embedded it in the wing. And I've got the servo arm set in one position so that it lays flat with the fuselage. Streamlines it, right? And so I have my momentary switch set up for my release. Okay? Now what I have here is just a piece of nylon string. These are the ends, the heads of cable ties, and I cut out the clip on the inside with my little number 11 blade. And why did I do this? Well, the simple reason is that if you have a single thread over top of something, you get this action. And that's no bueno, especially for something that flies through the air. Now, if you have this situation and this is pinned down, you have 3 points of contact, and you are less likely to have a dramatic influence of side loads because of the 3 points of contact. Effectively, you have 4, but really it's just 3. So that is what I did there. Now, why does this look funny? Well, I didn't really like the single thread going over everything, and so I did a little crocheting. Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's a little craft thing I did, but you don't have to do that. You can use a thicker string if you have it. If I'm honest, it's probably not the prettiest solution, but it is a solution, and it's easy to replace. That's what I was going for. I wanted it super, super flexible, but rigid and easy to replace. And this qualifies for all 3. This isn't meant to be a super scale model. This is meant to be a super fun model. I'm doing this to play around with everything. And I plan to do all of it. Okay. So I get to have a buddy with me on a separate radio because I didn't want this to be a distraction from flying. Okay, that is the number one reason that I did it this way, is because I want the pilot, whoever it may be, me or someone else, I want them to focus on flying and not the stupid torpedo on the ground or in the lake or wherever. All right. So that is what's going on. The other reason that I put it in this location is because, number one, it's kind of a scale location. It's more inboard, right next to where the struts are. So it's not going to interfere with the struts when it falls, but also it's closer to the center of mass, so you're not having a fulcrum effect of mass on the end or tip of the wing. And obviously, it's only one, so then it becomes more of a problem. And then, you know, if you have two, well, what if one doesn't deploy or deploys funky? So yeah, anyway, it seems like a simple solution. It should just slip right out. Very little friction. So when we get water mixed in, we'll see how well that does. Yeah. Let's go over everything else on the PBY real quick while I've got it powered up. Truth be told, I have actually flown this model once. And it was a windy day, and it was a really crappy flight, and it was difficult to tell how easy it was to fly because it was really, really windy. So I am actually still looking forward to properly flying this model. Did not take it off on the snow when I had snow recently, again, because it was kind of windy, unfamiliar airplane. I will say that it's pretty stable, but it was really difficult to tell how stable in the high winds that I was flying. I figured, oh, it's got plenty of wing area, it'll be fine, and it sort of was. It was a risk it for the biscuit situation. Paid off in the end, but overall, airplane's doing just fine. I did implement a timer or a delay or a slowdown of my servos for the pontoons to deploy. So there you go. I'm glad that worked out really easily, and they still work really, really well. I'm very pleased with how that modification came out. The lights, when I was doing surgery for the pontoons, one of them, I can't remember which light, but one of them wasn't working, and so I had to pull out the whole light line, and there was a break in the line where I had goofed a little bit in trimming, so be careful there. Other than that, the paint, I think it's because of the cold and hot that a lot of this paint has been coming off. Now, obviously, this is from when I applied the bottom, the plastic bottom from Park Flyer Plastics, and the paint, the strong tape I used there. But a lot of this has been more or less about canopy manipulation, where I've been putting in the canopy and pressing it down and making sure that it's in place. So something to note there, that the paint still is not great on foamies. It's a known thing, and it's fine. It's fine. I don't really care for this scheme much anyway, and would prefer this to be all gray anyway. So eventually, if I fall in love with this airplane, I do plan on painting the whole shebang. It'll be fun. So that's it. Head over to Thingiverse. I've got all of the files there if you want to try making this little torpedo thing for yourself and having a little fun. Let me know how it goes. It's been a fun side project, something that I just thought, I don't remember seeing anybody who's actually done something like this. And maybe it's just because I don't get out much. I'm stuck in the shop too much. But yeah, it's really fun. Just like I said, side project, easy to draw a tube and the dome, and then Fusion makes it super easy to apply a thread to it, and then it's just a matter of sizing it so that it actually threads together. So we're good. Super cool. Yeah, head on over to dubro.com if you guys need some hardware. It's still technically build season. And use code Josh10 at checkout. Again, I get nothing from it. Nothing. Not a dime. It's for you guys, and the great folks at Dubro are happy to provide you guys a little bit of a discount for following along with me and trying to get something and learning something new and building something. So there you go. Until next time, keep working on your floating, flying works of art.